with my kids is a time out method, you know, to where they have to have time for themselves, you know, if they're bad, you know, they gotta have 5 or 10 minutes to sit in a chair, you know, according to their age, you know. So that way, you know, they don't overdo it, you know, like if they're 1, you know, listen to it for 1 minute, you know, and be quiet, you know. And that way they learn discipline. And that, you know, my younger kids, you know, my oldest one was a challenge and the other ones are just so easy, you know. They make up for what he did, you know.
Well, they help each other.
Yeah, they help each other.
Marie uses that system, timeout. They'll, if they're in a conversation and they're not misbehaving, it's go sit on the stairway or just and they're free again. I think Donnie is the most patient. It's fun to see your children, what they do with their children. And Donnie will never embarrass a child in front of anyone. If they're doing something wrong, he says, let's go out and talk. And they'll go out of the room for a few minutes. And he reasons with them and accomplishes what he needs to do. It's amazing.
What works best for you is the way to do it.
That's right.
You all have different situations, different temperaments, different conditions. So
You mentioned something here about forcing them into show business. That was the farthest thing from our mind. We were having fun family nights. But people would say they'd perform, you know, locally at for a lot of church building fun dinners and for doctors' parties and the civic groups and so forth. People would say, how do you get them to practice? And that was a real joke for us. We, with so many boys, we had to have a lot of bedrooms, and so George, being a builder, and he built a great big long room on the back of our house. We called it our dormitory. And being a military man, he went out and bought a lot of army bunk beds, and we just lined them up, just not stacked up, but just lined them up. We had 7, I remember at the time. And we took this trip to Yellowstone Park. This is in the movie. I wrote that, by the way, that movie. He started singing The Old Oaken Bucket, and after they'd learned it, he took a harmony part. And Alan jumped up to listen to Father, and he says, come here, let's learn this. So Alan learned it, and he started singing the harmony part. And then the other kids learned that too, but then after they learned that second part, he took the third part. And they had more fun learning this harmony, so when we got home, they kept singing it. So I went down and got a lot of barbershop songs, and I'd record the parts, the 4 parts on there.
on an old wire.
An old wire recorder. See, we're ancient now. But we'd go in when they'd go to bed at night, and I'd put that recorder there, and they'd listen to the parts. This new song every week type thing. It's just fun for them. So they'd listen to their parts, and then I'd shut it off. And those kids would lie there and sing until they went to sleep. And lots of times we had to go stop them because they were singing too long. So to us, it was funny to try to get them to practice. But George did go through the routines though every day with them, make sure learning right. Well, when they first started singing and earning a few dollars, and they got paid, George paid them for their work there, and then they'd go out for the merchants in the area, and they'd pass handbills, put them on cars, and they'd earn money that way. And their purpose was that we all wanted to go on missions someday. And so they opened a bank account at our local bank there, and every time they'd earn a few dollars, they'd go put it in there. And their plan was that since Merle was the oldest one, they'd send him on a mission. And then when he came back, he was supposed to earn money and put it in the bank, so the second one could go on a mission and so forth. Well, you should have seen that bank deposit book. I wish I'd have kept it. It had about 10 entries. That's how they got started, and that was their whole purpose, getting into show business in the first place.
Consequently, Berlin were able to build missions. And then others were called to mission. And the church said, we know that you're doing much more good in the world than doing what you're doing. So they held them off the missions. They didn't get to go, but they all wanted to go. Yeah, they're going with their wives.
Next. did a lot of things for me. I did a lot of things for him. We really decided to be a team right from the start. And we worked together in business, and we worked together at home. He didn't mind coming in and mopping the floor. In fact, once in a while he'd come home and see I was a bit frustrated and all the noise and commotion. He'd say, "Mother, it's time to get some groceries. Why don't you go take a break?" And that was happy days for me. I'd love to go shopping.
Sure too, you know. I came home one night and my house was mixed, and I just couldn't see me.
This was early in the early days.
And that's where I got slapped. Yet I never touched her to this day.
And when we did the filming for this side by side, he was in Japan with Jimmy. He was doing a series over there. And I called him and I says, "Now look, we're going to film this segment tomorrow. Are you sure you want that in there?" He said, "You bet I want that in there. I want the whole world to know you slapped me and I've never touched you."
This is real life.
Oh, that story is very authentic, in detail. Even the rings on the engagement rings were the same ones, and the organ that was used is the same organ, and the house was almost like the one we lived in. And just lots of details in there. I wanted it for family to be able to keep and see what really happened. And so that's the way it was written. It was a little corny in places, but I wasn't professional.
Oh, I don't wish to bounce off on that. But I think wouldn't it be nice if all the churches could come together? And I meet buses, and I meet the most beautiful Baptists, Christian of all denominations, and they're all beautiful people. Isn't that terrible to think that we're better than someone? We're all God's children. We're brothers and sisters. There's no question in your or my mind, I'm sure. That's God's plan, and we would like to see it some way.
That brings up another doctrine that's peculiar to the Mormons, is the pre-existence or pre-mortality. The fact that we lived before in a spiritual state and then came down here to take this body to be tried and tested so we can get greater rewards. And then in that case, we are actually all brothers and sisters. That's the way we look at it.
I think some of the churches feel that we're not even Christians. And I don't know how they can figure that, because how do we close our show? The same as you'd close it, or any of the other different denominations. And I respect that very much. And we love you. I don't care what church you belong to. You're ours.
We've adopted you. You know, mentioning Burl and Tom are very special kids. They both have severe hearing losses. And when this missionary thing came up, they wondered how they could go on a mission, because no deaf people had ever been sent on missions before. And so Burl was able to use his hearing aid. His loss is less severe than Tom's. So he gets out on his mission in Canada, and they were so close as kids. He'd write home and say, "Oh, I wish my brother Tom were here with me." And we'd write back and say, "Oh, we know he's homesick, that's all that's the matter." We told him to get to work, you know, and don't worry about it. The time would go faster if he stayed busy. But Tom was doing fine, he's still in school. Every letter, "Oh, if Tom were just here." He said, "They're neglecting these deaf people up here in Canada so badly." He said, "If he were here, we could work out a system and teach him sign language and bring him to church." And once again, we'd write back and say, "Just stay busy and we're fine and just do your work." One day a letter came and he said, "I was awakened at 2 o'clock this morning with the most beautiful plan laid out, how to reach the deaf." He said, and he went on telling us how he would go about doing it. And at the end of it says, "Please send Brother Tom." Well, I thought this time we better take it to the missionary part of the church. And it's a long story. They made Tom finish school, graduate, and then he was the first deaf missionary to go out to be with